Okay, so this is more of that saga on the one in Australia. And so I had to make sure because I was talking about it somewhere else and they said, yes, the some of the victims here wanted to be able to speak out and they're making it where they can't. So it's a different thing where it's not, oh, we're trying to protect the victims because of any relationship to them or anything like that. It has to do with them trying to cuddle these perpetrators, because there's two in this. But that the laws there protect the perpetrators, and yeah, so no, it's a different case of something. That's why I was like, I don't know, like, should we be talking more about this or that? But I was saying that their stories were really, it was inspiring hearing them talk. Like, their perspective and how they approached it. I just really liked it. And I wanted to share it, but since this thing's going on and all this, I don't want to, mess around with it right now. But so it says that the female Channel 7 star accused of rape and child abuse is hit with 40 more charges. 40. Okay, so their conduct is so crazy. So so I got a gist of what happened, through these other things. So actually, if you look for it, you could pretty much figure it out. That's what I was saying. I go, but I'm just not going to say it. But if you search a little, you could figure out who these people are. And it's pretty crazy. And there's lots of footage of them, and then it has something to do with like the television people didn't even care, and then they were just, but I don't know. It was so much in it, and then I only got a perspective of like two people part of it, but then apparently there's more, and then basically they don't want anything to do with these people. Like, there's a lot to it. These people are terrible, and there's just so much to learn from it. It was just one of these cases that popped up, and they were talking about this and that, and then I decided to dig because I was like, I could figure it out, because I usually do. I could figure it out. And it took me a while to find this other portion of things because some things were removed, and then I finally find it and I sat back and I was like, wow. And just how much, there's just so much in it. There's so much in this story that I want it to finally open up. So then, I could send people to wherever and then listen to what happened here and the effects that it did on these victims. It's the effects that was, I was listening to it going, oh my God. And it would touch on a couple of other cases that we've talked about and everything here, and some behavioral things. And so for me, I'm really big into dissecting, the little socio kids that are coming out and everything like that. Not saying that these people were, but it shows like how that is created and can be created, and if it was any further, some other things, how then it can tip over into this other thing. I have been totally on that for over a decade now. And then it was almost like a lot of that information came together more so in this past year or two, just from discovery of hearing the men's side, because I think a little bit more of it just clicked, I think, with that information. But I was correct in that it is learned, and then there's some sort of a stunt going on when they're developing, like something right there. It has nothing to do, like I was trying to explain in this other thing, that has nothing to do with like bipolar itself. And I was saying, a person that brought it up on the Axel thing, I go, yeah, you're entirely correct. It wouldn't be that making him psychotic, though it could be one of those contributing factors that would cause that, when they have that mania thing, like it's a contributing factor when they start going crazy, and going off on people. Not that the bipolar thing itself makes you like that, but that could be the addition, because it is in a lot of them. And I would assume probably all of them, but it's just like one of those things. There's just like cluster things because they're abused. But the main thing of that PD has to do with learn things and not developing empathy, like that thing towards other humans. And it's occurring in the younger years there, in between that, birth to 10 portion, because I had to analyze this on myself too. So I was like, when did I fully develop like all these things? It's something I never thought about, and I doubt anybody else has either. And I recalled it because I did some crazy things as a kid, and I was like, little socios, the little kids. And I was like, oh yeah, so I was doing this like thing, and then at some point it corrected, and then I had this like, empathy, like don't, it's a thing, not to, do these things. And it developed in stages actually throughout. And now I don't know if this is the same for everybody, or, it's just because of our situation, maybe it developed a little later in some areas, maybe, you know what I mean? So nobody's really talked about this. So it's just like, for me, I know there was a portion where it was there. And then there was a portion where, it started developing as you're dealing with, okay, these are kids. And, if you do this, this is kind of a bad thing. It's not a good thing to do to another human. You start going to this thing. But you're being taught also at the same time, like, you should not do these things to other people. Those things, there's these external messaging, like you should not do this. But just saying that doesn't necessarily mean that you care, So there's something else that starts to develop in that. And then something developed. Like it was a thing like that. And then later, like when you're starting to go in the teen years, like at least a lot of that was developed, because if it wasn't, that's when they start really showing up. But I will say that even if it was, then there's still areas that you're learning, like how to be around people and not do bad things to people. And, it's just like doing things without a care, right? Like you don't care about your friend and you do something, and that type of thing. So you're still kind of developing this thing. It's just like on top of it. But these people don't develop it at all, or mostly not at all. And then it's like really obvious, like mostly in that teen portion right there. And it's just due to the environmental things. And then some, because they're going through a lot of suffering, then start showing some other things going on, which isn't necessarily that PD or anything like that. It's just from the abuse. So yeah, it's kind of that thing. But when they were talking, I go, yeah, that's the information I want. That's the information I want, because it helps me for this other stuff. And it's like, it's showing the like there's a spectrum. There's definitely a spectrum, but I was like, because, you're not worried about like, half these people going out and shooting up a place or something. But these other ones, yes. And you don't want to hindsight it when it's too late. So I'm trying to get it where we fully understand this and kids understand it. Kids need to understand it, because adults can't, like, if you're in an environment and they're all abusive and stuff, and then you're at school and it's like the kid sees that somebody's doing these things, then somebody needs to jump in and then get the attention over there and then have that looked at. Because in a lot of these cases, like they were, it's hindsight. They're like, oh yeah, in school, like the Russell Brand thing, right? He's running around with his like coat thing going on. Now that thing should have been reported, but nobody told the kid. I don't know. There's just no response to it. It's just like the kids see it and they're like, wow, that's messed up. And then they just don't do anything. So like the kids need to identify it and go, yeah, there's something wrong with them. That's all they really need to know, is that if somebody's acting off and that's not right, and we need to tell someone. So it's that thing. And then, yeah, so the sooner they can get it, because the sooner you could tackle it, I believe that that's probably the only area in time that you could fix that, or even have a chance to, well, let's say it like this, have a chance to try to correct that. Now, so here it ended up, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking listening to it because it was just like, yeah, people need to be more honest. People need to, when even if they were bad as a kid, to talk about that story because that's the thing that's going to help us out here. Um, there's a lot of people that are not comfortable talking about that stuff. I've been talking about it. I was like, it's just one of those things. It's like, I'm not a perfect human. Sometimes as a kid, I did stupid shit and yada yada. But I wasn't like I didn't do anything like massively criminal where I should get arrested or anything. Besides the gum thing that they were trying to say that he at 6 years old I should be arrested. I didn't even understand the concept of paying at a cash register yet. I'm like, oh, I see my parents, grabbing stuff off shelves and putting it in a cart and then doing something and then we take off. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I want gum. So I just grabbed it like they did and then I don't know. And they're like, you stole that. You have to pay. I'm like, what's that? I didn't even understand the concept of really having to pay people. Like, yeah, so, and then, yeah, and then there was only like that one other thing later, but yeah, it was opportunist. Like little opportunist me. And then yeah, but there was no like, why did you do it? It's like, I don't know, it was there. That's really the mindset at the time. It wasn't even like this thought out plan. It was just like I open it, I go, oh, I'm gonna take it. I knew it was wrong though, but it wasn't, there was no other thought to it. It wasn't this deep thinking like there's like crime, this heist thing going on. Just that. And then I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't get in trouble. And I got in trouble. So, but that's it. It wasn't like there's this long list of things I did like that. They don't talk about that stuff. Everyone wants to talk about how perfect they are. I was like, nobody was perfect up in here. I go, it makes me sound bad because, or like maybe a bad, worse person than these people. But the truth is, I'm being honest about some behaviors. These people will not talk about it. Mostly when they write these like the biographies of these guys are just like the men. They're just like bragging about what terrible, atrocious monsters they are. And everybody's like, yeah, that's cool. But like when women start talking about stuff, I've noticed that they want to like flip the stories around and turn it into other stuff. Turn it into other stuff that I wouldn't even think of. Yeah, I was like, God, did it come off like that? I would hope not. I was mocking these guys because it's like it's ridiculous. And then it kind of, I don't know. There was some bullshit that happened a couple months ago, yeah. And I was like, is it from this? I don't know what it's from. It's bizarre. Okay, so proceeding against the women who cannot be publicly named for legal reasons. Why don't you explain those legal reasons, Daily Mail? It's not because they didn't want to. That's because like you're just a reader. Let's say you're just a reader and you never read the story yet and you don't know anything about it and you read that and you're like, what would these legal reasons be? Is it because the victims, this and that? No. The court heard the women has been hit with additional 40 charges on top of an existing raft of allegations, including rape and serious child abuse offenses. According to the court documents, the woman was charged with 38 of the new charges on November 7th this year and another on November 10th, meaning she now faces some 80 charges. Okay. One charge of common assault has since been dropped. The charges date back several years and span several locations across Queensland. They include you have two words. They include further rape and child abuse charges as well as allegations of observations or recordings in breach of privacy, genitalia or anal region, torture, disabling in order to commit an indictable offense, and assault occasioning bodily harm. Wait, what is it? Recordings in breach of privacy. Are they talking like child porn? Like I don't know. Like I'm trying to understand because the torture, disabling in order to commit an indictable offense. Disabling. Do they mean like tying him up or something? Offense and assault occasioning bodily harm. Okay, the TV personality's defense lawyer requested an adjournment in order to gather more material on the fresh charges. The woman's most recent court appearance follows a previous ruling that she could not be named by the media out of fear she might self-harm in coverage of the high-profile case by Channel 9's A Current Affair. Okay, was that the thing I pulled up? Because I found that video and they did further research on it. And then they didn't name them, but they were, trying to figure out when they could release the information on them. And then, yeah, so all she has to do is cry out, I'm gonna harm myself, so please don't say my name. It's like, this is stupid. It also came after she attempted to self-harm last month. This is what they do. This is what they do. This is the common socia. This is the typical common socia. This one right here. As I said, not all suicide stuff is the same. I was like, it's not. There's this class of people. So they're fine doing all the abuses, right? The whole time, right? They're enjoying themselves. They're abusing everybody. They're doing all this. Then all of a sudden, one day, their little fun Disneyland of harming everybody comes to an end, right? Now all of a sudden they're depressed and they want to go take themselves out. This is an actual common thing that's been going on. I just pulled up another case out of the country, so it's a common thing across the globe. So it isn't, just in like, Australia or here in America. It was in India as well, and all over. So this is a common action by an abuser person who's a socio that's a sexual criminal. Typically, you'll see it. We saw it with the Epstein thing, and they tried to turn it into a conspiracy, which was really annoying because it's actually part of their traits here of things that they do. And then we've talked about the serial killer, Israel Keys. So he did the same thing. And yeah, they want to escape out of their accountability. They're upset about themselves. Like, they're not like going through this thing like, I feel so bad that I'm a terrible person and I did this stuff to everybody. It's just like, I'm depressed because I'm actually getting in trouble, and whatever the case may be going on in their messed up brain there, right? But then they'll take a exit out because they don't want to deal with the consequences. And I've seen this in child porn cases too, where they get a guy for child porn and he's just like, it's the end of the world. And then, that thing happens, right? It doesn't come from anybody bullying them or anything like that. It comes from this PD here, and it's just part of this layered thing of it. And no, I haven't pointed out all day long. They like to think they're victims, though. This person is making themselves into a victim. Did they do this? And that's just part of the trade, okay? So I'm the victim. I'm the one doing all these crimes, right? But I'm the victim, okay? You guys are being this way to me. And it's like, you shouldn't be treated any more special than anybody else that gets busted for this stuff, But there is a man also involved in this case. I don't know why he's not brought up as much as she is, but okay, so it says the case had been one of the first to put Queensland's new sexual offense identification laws to the test. As of October 3rd, persons accused of and charged with sexual offenses, including rape, attempted rape, assault, and with intent to commit rape and sexual assault, can have their identities published by the media. Which before they didn't, right? So I was like, yeah, why was that even going on? So the woman's partner was also in October charged with 2 counts each of torture and common assault, and 1 charge each of observation or recording in breach of privacy and assault occasioning bodily harm. I need an example of this because I'm thinking observations or recordings in breach of privacy, because I'm thinking like they're watching an abuse happen and or they're taping it, and they got involved with the assault that caused harm to one of the victims. Am I correct? What do you guys think? Because that's the wording there. Okay, so the partner also cannot be publicly named. Yeah, so they're well, he suicidal? I see. So it did this thing where it just protected this whole house right here. It's so annoying. Okay, so then they increased the woman's bail, and the matter has been set down for committal mention on January 23rd, 2024. There's a lot of horrible stories in Daily Mail right now. I was like, yeah, the one at the bottom. And I just saw, yeah, I had this happen to me.